Hello again. My name is Zach, and we're back here on the Weekly Spin. Got a number of episodes to share with you this week, so really excited to talk to you about, not just the tracks that these drivers in Ghost Xfinity series have to tackle yet in the regular season. But I also want to talk to you about the drivers. I want to talk to you about, as a fan, what storylines you need to pay attention to as we move into the latter part of the regular season for these drivers. And this video, we're going to take a mid-season glance at what Ghost Xfinity has to offer. First things first, let's take a look here at the points for our time together here today. I think it's very important for us to understand just how impressive we have. This season has gotten for us in the Ghost Xfinity series, right? The theme of this whole season has been who can dethrone Jeffrey Radke as the top of the leaderboard. And right now it looks like a whole lot of nobody. We do have a couple other guys who have won races in Corey Stahl and Robert Hottenbach. But all in all, man, taking a look down this list, it's incredible what Radke has done so far on a multitude of different tracks, a multitude of different driver disciplines, and it really has translated over into some great success here in Ghost Xfinity series. I'm really excited to see Radke and some other of these drivers make the jump into Cup Series rides next season, or maybe perhaps they get the call at some point this season. I don't know. Given how big of a points lead Radke has, he can kind of afford to take a week off and go dabble in cup cars if he really wants to. But got to see Radke race at the All-Star race, the Demolition Derby that Ghost had, which was a ton of fun. But that, of course, doesn't really count, and it doesn't really show a whole lot of driver skill to go out there and do that. So interesting to see how that will all play out as we move forward into the season. But you can see here on our points list that we have a playoff cut line. Right now it's below 16, but I can tell you that has recently gotten bumped, so ignore that red line down there. But there are only a certain number of drivers that are going to get into the playoffs. That number is not 16. I believe that number is 10. Excuse me if I'm wrong. I'm fairly certain it's 10. It very well may be 12, but I'm 100% sure it's not 16. So really excited to see these point battles start to play out here as we move along in the season. But there are a few things that I want to talk to you about in terms of some storylines this season as we near the midpoint of what has been a really, really fun Xfinity Series season. And we got to start with the dominance, right, of Jeffrey Radke. He has won 6 out of 8 times he has raced, and let me tell you, that just doesn't happen. Even on the Cup side, we don't see that kind of dominance out of one particular driver over this long of a period of time. And there's been some banter going back and forth in Ghost Xfinity Discord over who's going to do it, who's going to finally bump him off the top here. And I have my own opinion about that, but I think I'm going to keep that a little close to the vest as we move forward into the season. But I do want to hear from you down in the comments. What do you think about Radke really clipping off all of these wins? It's an incredible feat to watch happen, because not all of these wins have been sure things, but most certainly these wins have been earned by Radke. He hasn't backed himself into any of these 6 wins, and it's going to be really tough to knock Radke out of the playoffs at any point in time. So especially when the playoffs reset and he gets all of his bonus points reset, right? We've seen this in real life play out with especially Chase Elliott in the first round of the playoffs. Had an abysmal first round, but all you got to do is survive, and then the points reset at the end of 3 races, and then what happens? Boop, he's right up to the top again. With a huge cushion. Radke can definitely play that all the way through the playoffs if he wants to. And I do look forward to see how different drivers in this field compensate for that. Are they going to be as aggressive as, in my opinion, they should be? Leading up towards the playoffs, we've talked about how there's 7 races left. As a racer, you want to make sure, like, he doesn't win any more of them. And I think that's a pretty tall mountain to climb for this field, as it's been shown Jeffrey Radke is the class of the field. Taking a look over here for your bubble watch, I want to bring us back to our points table and just take a look at how close some of these positions are, because it definitely spaces out. We're going to take a look here between Shane Ledoux and Nick Trust. That's a pretty sizable points gap. You have a 30-point gap there between 8th and 9th in points. And that really creates an island, a place of isolation between what is the anticipated playoff cut line and drivers that are above that, looking forward into the playoff battle. So, like I've shared before, wins are really hard to come by. If you look down the list, you can see Jordan Darnell. He's 14th in points, but he does have a win. So it just is something to keep in mind as we near the playoff, this playoff season. And in my opinion, I think it could be definitely a good one to watch. But let's talk about the line. Let's talk about some of these drivers involved. We have Matt Bentley right now sitting in P10 with 504 points, and that's all well and good until you look right behind him, and you can see some of the names of these folks that are about the same running order in the field as the season carries along. There are 2 drivers of note here that I do want to highlight for our time together, though, that might be ones worth watching. As you can see, Matt Bentley's got 8 races under his belt for this season, and we continue to cruise along in this Xfinity Series season. Man, it's been a thrill to watch. It's been a thrill to kind of decompress after the Cup Series rides and go, okay, I wonder what the Xfinity guys did tonight, and turn on the broadcast and watch them. But when I take a look at this chart, these names that are all here all race around the same point on the racetrack. So how are you going to make up these spots when the guys that you're racing with are the ones that you are competitively tied with, so to say, on the podium each week? But the one driver, the first driver, I guess I should say, that I'm really going to focus on is Charles Whitehead there in P11. The reason is that he is 6 points away from getting into the top 10. And if you take a look at his number of starts, that's what sticks out to me personally, is that he's raced 2 fewer races than the guy in front of him. Charles has shown that he does have the speed to be competitive and to be that driver that racks up a bunch of points in a short period of time. Anytime that you have a league on iRacing, you take the risk of, I'm not going to be here certain weeks, right? I'm going to be away, or I have a family occasion, or that's just how life interacts with racing. But if you can do really well in the races that you are in, you can be in positions like Charles is, where you're 11th in points, you have 2 races less than the guy in front of you. That should grant you some confidence that, hey, I'm only 6 points out, and I don't have to race nearly as much to be in the playoffs. And of course, we know when the playoffs happen, everything changes. points get reset, right, and we're ready to go. But I'd take a look out for Charles Whitehead as we move forward here into the playoffs. Another driver that I want to focus on is one that I actually have here on our rundown. And I want to set the stage for you, our viewer here, because, man, it's crazy how history repeats itself. Last season in Ghost Cup Series racing, there was a addition to the squad, an addition to the field that would dramatically shape how the series was run and ultimately would affect the storylines of who became champion in the Ghost Cup Series. Christopher Tate was let into the league partway through the season, and he knew the task ahead of him was great. He started last on that point podium and went all the way up through the field, made his way into the playoffs on points. Like I said, that same scenario with Charles, Christopher Tate kind of did backwards, right? Let the field get a head start and he caught up to them, and eventually made his way to the Final Four, became the dominant car in most of the races he raced in, and he won the championship. And I'm not planting my flag here quite yet, but we saw last week a situation that very well could imitate the very same story. And what I'm talking about is the driver of the number 7 machine. If you take a look here on our points table, that is Ricky Gonzalez down here. Sitting right now 17th in points. He gained all these points, 85 of them, through one race. How do we know? Well, we know that he gained all these points because he almost wound up winning his first ever Ghost Xfinity Series race, dethroning Jeffrey Radke. And this is eerily similar to what Ghost Cup Series action had their first time through with Christopher Tate, right? Where we had our favorites, we knew who was going to be fast, and kind of like a cowboy busting through one of them western doors, right? You know the Woody from Toy Story gif, and he's just, yeah. I feel like Ricky did that to the Xfinity field last week, saying, "I have arrived," right? There is a new challenger, and he's approaching, and I am so excited to see what Ricky can do in this uphill climb, right? We have other drivers down the list that have raced one race, but I have not talked to either TJ or Cliff over their future here in the Ghost Xfinity Series. But I have talked to Ricky Gonzalez, and I know that his intention is to race for a championship, to be competitive in this series. So will this be a repeat over what we saw in the Ghost Series on the Cup side a year ago, where this driver who comes in fast makes a sprint towards the playoff cut line, right? You don't have to be in first when this thing ends, and you most likely won't be based on how far away Radke and Hattenbach and all those others are way out in front. But if you're Ricky, you can definitely get to 10th, and you can definitely get to 10th and then stay there when the playoffs start. It's going to be tough because, as we covered in our last video, there are 7 races left. But in my humble opinion, we could very well be seeing the same kind of storyline play out all over again as what we saw on the Cup Series side. And for me, that's thrilling, right? We've been inviting on this channel, if you are interested in being in an Xfinity Series ride, come over to Ghost, right? We have the infrastructure, we're ready to go, and we got a really good field. We just need more people. And Ricky was one that answered the call and said, you know what, I'm going to join. Immediately makes his presence felt his first weekend, and I'm excited to see how the other drivers in this series step up their game in response to that. I hope you are too. Again, you can watch Ghost Xfinity Series action on Sim Racing Media each Wednesday night, and I want to encourage you to go follow, like, and subscribe Sim Racing Media in order to catch Ghost Xfinity Series action. So my hope is that I might be able to see you, the fans, in the comments rooting on your favorite driver, whether it be the new guy in town or the guy that's been dominating all season long, or perhaps one of those sleepers in between. I'm encouraged by this field, and I'm ready to go, right? I'm hyped up. I hope you are too, as we take a mid-season glance at this awesome field that wants nothing more than to race hard for championship. Well, until we meet again, my name is Zach, and just remember to keep on racing.